Hey everybody, this is T-Ray from H10 Hanshin Tigers English News, and we just finished recording episode 143 of the podcast, which I hope you've already checked out. And if you haven't, make sure you do, because it is going to help you get on board with the Central League in 2022. With me, as always, by my side right here is Sanjay. How you doing, brother?
How's it, brother
How's
T-Ray?
it? It's always good to see your face. It is good to see that cool Hanshin Tigers cap, the nice jersey, the jerseys in the background. You are a Tigers fan through and through. I love it. It's
Where's
great.
this? Well, this one's this side.
There you go, 51 Nakano, and it'll be great to have him back real soon. So, man, today on the post show, I want to talk a little bit about myself, of course. Sorry, but as I briefly mentioned in the show, I was down in Okinawa for a little bit of the spring training, and it kind of came about real suddenly. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what I saw and how that all went down. Is that cool?
That is so cool. I am so looking forward to this. And I want to know from the beginning, like, because I believe that you are familiar with Okinawa. So maybe a little bit of that
Yeah.
kind of background would help too.
Yeah, thanks. So I lived in Okinawa for 12 years before I moved up to mainland, before I even really cared about NPB. And so while I was living down there, I didn't pay a ton of attention to what was going on as far as baseball in February. I did go to a couple of games, though. I went to like a Bay Stars game and a Swallows game because they were kind of near where I was living, but I didn't know any of the players. I didn't really care about what they did when they came up to mainland, or even where they were. Like I didn't know where where's the Yakult Swallows. I had no clue, right? So anyhow, because I've kind of gotten on board with Japan Ball, and they want to do a tour of Okinawa / spring training next year. They want to offer that as a tour. They said, well, why don't you go down and check things out, get the lay of the land, and then we will be able to set up better for next year. So that's what I did down there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity, for me to go back to Okinawa, where I love that place, but also to focus entirely on baseball. Now, I shouldn't say I wasn't allowed, but the focus of the trip was not Hanshin Tigers, right? It was
Right.
all of the camps. And so I actually went to all of the camps, whether they had baseball on that date or not. And I'll explain some of those circumstances as we talk a little bit further. But 9 teams stationed themselves down on the main island of Okinawa at some point in February. And so I went and checked out 9 locales, as well as some other kind of touristy spots, just to see what we could do on off days and things like that as well. So I started things in Urasoi, which is probably one of the nearer camps to the airport. So I got my rental car, and the very first thing I did was I went to see the Yakult Swallows, right? So here we go.
Mhm.
I'm very excited. I'm at the spring training camp of the Swallows. Everything is awesome. I'm really stoked to be there. But what I found out was they're having a practice game. And so I stuck around and got into the stands, and I got fairly close to seeing this guy right here. I mean, look how close I was to him.
Makun.
Yep. Fairly recognizable name right there. Yeah. So that was really cool, just to be able to be that close to the players. And they had limited entry to the ballparks. Sorry, this is the Urasoi ballpark. Let me just give you this here. This is the ballpark I meant to show you.
Okay.
This is what it looked like. And it was the Swallows against the Eagles. And I just stuck around for a few innings just to kind of see what it was like to watch a game there, how it felt, what the fan atmosphere was like, all that kind of stuff. So I also got to walk around the park a little bit and just kind of see what was there. I got to eat lunch there. So after that, I took my talents over to Ginowan City, which is where the Yokohama Bay Stars have their camp, and they are at Atom Home Stadium. So I got in there, hung out a little bit at that ballpark. Let me see if I can find a good shot of that. So they were also having a practice game. Looked like this at the stadium for them. Well, maybe the timing wasn't great. So one little bit of trivia for everybody, or a side note for everybody. Last year, when our golden rookie, Teruaki Sato, was wowing everybody, this was the stadium where the magic happened. Where, can you see the scoreboard way out in the distance? That's the scoreboard that he hit the ball over. And you can see like the blue wall there. Yeah. So this is what it looks like, I guess, from the stands. And I could just imagine what it would have looked like when he smashed that ball. I mean, obviously, wish I could have been there, but Yeah. So that was that. I hung out there a little bit, and then I moved on. That was the end of that day. So that night, I'm somewhat near my hotel. I went to kind of a shopping area, and I found this really cool store that had this display of different shirts that are special, limited to Okinawa only. And you can see there's a couple on the left with Hanshin Tigers, right? You've got the I love the Tears of Joy tissues shirt. And I should have bought it, but it was like $40 for the t-shirt, and I was like,
Nah.
I don't know, because like, on one hand, looking at it in the moment in the store is like, yeah, it's really cool. But then practically speaking, do I really want to walk around with a tissue sticking out of my boobs? Not really. Right.
No.
So I was like, I'll pass, even though it's a really great display. It looks really cool, but yeah, no thanks. So that was
Can
that.
I
That was the end of
interrupt?
my first day. What's
Can I
that?
interrupt real briefly?
Yep.
You see the Chunichi Dragons shirt on the right there.
Yep.
I didn't mention it in the podcast, but one of the things that came up was that they're going to have their version of the Urutora no Natsu, some kind of special jersey that they're going to wear for 5 games during the season.
Uh-huh.
And it's got the Nobori Ryu, the rising dragon, I guess. And I have to say that it rivals ours in terms of aesthetic pleasantness. And it looks something like that. It looks something like that on a white background. There's this huge dragon swirling up into the air, and I was like, oh gosh.
Well, something to look forward to, especially if they are playing us in those unis. I know that we're playing them in ours. I think maybe even twice, once in the summer and then once for the unveiling in April, which we always tend to do. So,
oh, good. We'll subject them to some eye attack.
hopefully. So that was the end of day one. And then in day two, it was a national holiday. And I was super looking forward to this because it was going to bring me all the way up to the northern part of the island. And the team that plays in the northernmost part of the island, I'll give you this one hint and see if you can figure it out.
Shinjo.
Yes. The Nippon Ham
Nippon
Fighters
Ham
play.
Fighters.
Yeah. So unfortunately, it was very rainy that day, and the fighters were all practicing indoors. I was allowed to walk around a little bit outside, and I saw some of the players kind of up close, especially near the bullpen, but not much action going on just because of the weather. I was quite disappointed. But so this is what the fighters ballpark, I guess, looks like from the outside. Yeah, I actually got to walk like almost right onto the field. What's that?
T-Ray, I have to ask you the question. Was that a thumbs up or a shaka that you were flashing over there?
I'm not sure. It's whatever. I was a thumbs up, actually. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Shaka next time.
Okay. Next time I'm in Nagawa, I'll do that. So there you go. There's the official announcement right there. Ame Chush, right? Well, it doesn't say Ame, but it was Chushi. So that was it. And that was really disappointing because the Hanshin Tigers were supposed to be playing the Hiroshima Carp on this day in an exhibition game, and I was going to stay for the entire game, watch the whole thing. There I am. You can see the wet pavement. And yeah, there was nothing going on there whatsoever, unfortunately. So I was not able to catch any Hanshin Tigers, but that's what the outside of the park looks like. And this is what the ballpark proper looked like on this given day. No good, my friend. No good at all.
Zannen deshita, T-Rain.
Yeah, extremely zannen. Yeah. So anyhow, that is day two, I guess. I did go to one other park. I will say that I went to one other park, and that was way out in the town of Kin, which is where the Eagles practice. But they had already finished their camp, so I went there just to see the location, and that was it. So the very next day, I wake up, and my hotel is actually quite near this camp right here, and this would be the Chunichi Dragons. So this one was a ton of fun. This is actually where the Tigers played their first game of the exhibition season, I guess, if you will. It was at this ballpark, and we lost the game, but I wasn't at the game. So I just got to watch the Dragons in action. One interesting thing I found about the Dragons was their practice uniforms don't have numbers on the back. So unless you know the players, you don't know who you're looking at. And I thought that was really a bummer.
That's not very fan friendly.
No, it's not at all. I was really surprised. Like, why would they do that? If you're spending all that money to get these really, cool uniforms, then at least get numbers on the back. You don't have to have names, but at least have numbers. It's helpful. So they didn't, and that was kind of a bummer.
That might explain why there's so few fans in the stands too.
Well, that, and they're just not a very cool team. Sorry, guys. Cheap shot. Okay, so after hanging out there a little bit, I went down to Naha, which is where the Yomiuri Giants practice. and this was their ballpark, and they were actually having a practice game, and they were actually facing the Rakuten Eagles as well. So I got to see the Giants versus the Eagles, which was pretty fun. So, but I will say that just going to the Giants stadium felt really weird, and being there and them having to put this sticker on my mask. So I actually had to say, yes, I am here officially and I'm allowed to be here and blah, blah, blah. But man, I texted you at the time. I was like, I feel like I'm joining the wrong religion here, is what I kind of felt like. It was just like, it's just a bizarre experience. So
you went to the dark side.
Yeah. Again, it's work. I had to do it. It was for work. But this is their stadium. They actually hold some NPB games here during the year. And it's a decent park. Like, it doesn't hold a lot of fans in the stands, but it is a decent it's a decent setup. So that was pretty fun. So after that, I drove on to where the Chiba Lotte Marines practice. Again, they had already broken camp, so all I got to do was see stuff like this, but I didn't actually get to see any players or see what their practices were like or what the facilities are like when there are people there. But I still got to go to their ballpark. And then let me see.
So did you have like press credentials and stuff when you were doing all this?
I did not. I had nothing at all. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was just, I had to go. One of the interesting things though was that, like, I kind of forgot to check on what the COVID protocols were for some of these places. So it was only when I got there that I was like, oh yeah. So in some ways, like, even though I missed the Tigers and Fighters, like, they were actually a little bit strict about getting in. Like, you needed, for the Tigers were the only team that required like a proof of vaccination of some sort. So you needed to have taken pictures of your proof of vaccination and then upload them to their site or whatever beforehand. So I went up there without any, I mean, I had my proof with me, like, in the hotel, but I didn't have it with me when I went there. So I maybe wouldn't have gotten in anyways. But it was then that I realized, like, so then I booked ahead for the Giants camp, because I realized, like, okay, if I'm not booked there, I may not get in. And then I did the same thing at this last one, which was where the Hiroshima Carp were practicing. And this is in Okinawa City. This was the last one that I had to visit. And so this one, they were actually doing an intra-squad game that day. So I got to catch a little bit of carp versus carp. But this is what their ballpark looked like. A pretty nice place. It was a really nice facility, actually. So I think that about does it. I mean, I did other stuff. Like I said, checked out a few tourist attractions, things like that. But just a great time to see 9 ballparks down in Okinawa. And next year, if Japan Ball does the tour, chances are I'm going to be the main tour guide on it. And if any of you want to come on that, it is going to be a great time.
So this is going to happen during camp, right? Like February.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's the purpose of going, is to see the players and see the teams and hopefully do some up close and personal stuff. The one, I guess, like, side note, if you will, things were really limited this year because of COVID. Like, there were only certain places you could enter. A lot of places were gated off to the public. So we couldn't really get very close to too many players. But as I was leaving the Bay Stars camp, I'm just walking back towards my car, and all of a sudden Neftali Soto comes out of nowhere, and he's just walking with like a translator or whatever. So I was like, hey, Soto, have a great year, man. He's like, thank you very much. So we just kind of had like a brief exchange, but I didn't even dare ask for pictures because I kind of knew they would shut that down. Like, no, get away from our player, you COVID holder, even though I didn't have COVID. But, you know, like, they want to protect their guys. So
sure.
Yeah, but I at least got to talk to a player very briefly. And so hopefully, though, if we do this tour and things are a little bit more open, I'm actually going to try and pull a few strings and see if we can't actually get some time with the import players next year.
That'd be cool. That'd be really fun.
Yes. So those are the good times that I had down in Okinawa. I'm looking forward to some more good times at Koshien Stadium. And Sanjay, when the gates open up, man, I hope you are going to be in Japan for a game at some point.
It's on my bucket list for 2022.
There you go. Well, I hope you're not kicking the bucket in 2022.
I hope not too.
Yeah. Good health to you. Hey, everybody out there, thank you for watching today. Wishing you all the best of health and good times in the next 2 weeks before the season begins. Remember to get your predictions into H10. All those details are in the show notes of the show proper. I'll put them in the video show notes as well, just to make sure that you get your predictions in and you're in the contest. Sanjay, you too. Have a good one, everybody.
Ganbai Hanshin Tigers.